Anyways, the Sacramento Kings, free agency. James Ham, Comaz, and Joe Brazil's over there. I saw so D'Lo and KC yesterday got into a discussion about the idea of tanking and should the Kings tank.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenny's entire argument is it's not the only way to build a team. That's not there's not one path to a championship. And he cited that Nikola Jokic was a second round pick. Giannis Antetokounmpo was a 16th pick. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was 11. You've got a guy like Steph Curry who was 7.
You drafted Tyrese Halliburton at 12.
That happened. That's also a thing that happened. So look, no, I don't disagree with Kenny that it's not the only way that the Kings are ever going to be good is if they bottom out and become the Wizards for a couple of years. I totally agree with him. But on the other hand, I think it is unavoidable that the Sacramento Kings, if they're going to ascend and get back on a winning track, I don't think they can do it from at the combine. They do your standing vertical and then your max vertical. Standing vertical is you stand there 2 feet flat on the floor and you jump. Your max vertical is you get a run up, couple of steps, and then you get to jump. Two-step jump. I think the Kings cannot, from a standing position, from where they are today, get back into the top 3-ish in the West, or consistently a top team in the West, a top 6 team in the West on a consistent basis. I think they need to back up a little.
Yeah.
I don't think it necessarily needs to be tanking, because when you say tanking, to me, that says tear it down to the studs. We're winning 14 games next year. That's tanking to me. I think the Kings, it is to me unavoidable that at some point they're going to need to get off Domantas Sabonis' contract. They're going to need to get off Zach LaVine's contract, in my opinion. They're going to need to get off of DeMar DeRozan's contract. And that will inescapably lead to a step back. And I've decided I'm going to call it a rewind instead of a rebuild, because I don't think you need to do the whole tear it all the way down. But I do think that at some point there's going to be a logical step backward to get moving the right direction again.
No, I'm with you 100%. Like, look, I think it's really complicated to blow this thing up.
Yes.
And, I talk about it all the time, like blowing it up. Like if you decide to blow it up, like just the financial ramifications of being horrific again are very tough.
Okay.
But they're already there.
But that doesn't concern me. Like, I know it's the reality of the situation, but my bigger thing with, like, I don't care about the Kings and ticket prices and why they do this and why they do that.
Of course.
Like, that doesn't matter to me. I think the financial aspect of it is, I don't think the Kings could right now say, hey, league, Zach LaVine is available. Just give us anything. We'll do a second round pick swap. And there would have to be matching salary. You're then taking on the player. I don't know that the deals are out there for them this year.
We do have breaking news.
Oh, okay.
Mike Brown has been named the head coach of the New York Knicks.
Hey, congratulations to Mike Brown.
Former Sacramento Kings head coach, Mike Brown.
Kings legend, Mike Brown.
Good for Mike Brown. Okay, go ahead.
Back in the head coaching ranks. All right, salute. Maybe those deals just aren't out there, but I think that at some point, and this is where I get a little bit stuck, because let's just say you do want to, like, hey, at all costs, you got to get rid of Zach LaVine. Just at all, if that's what somebody said. I'm not saying that, but if that's what someone said, I think just simply getting off the contracts isn't going to be enough. You have to be getting something back for it, right? You have to be getting something of value back.
Yes.
To facilitate this retool or rebuild or rewind or whatever you're calling it. Like, there has to be something of value in there, preferably draft picks. But if you can get a rotation player back, a young rotation player, maybe like a player who's a Cam Whitmore type, who's just stuck on a bench and like just isn't gonna find his way. Can you find a way to facilitate a move that gives you assets that you feel better about 2026 and beyond. So it defeats the purpose if you're just like, yeah, hey, we'll give you Domas. Will you give us 2 seconds and whatever kind of bloated salary you want? Like that doesn't help. You can't just do it just to do it. There has to be, the move has to be in service of something.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this, and this is tough. Like, I understand your premise, and I agree. If it comes to Domas, you have got to get value back.
Mhm.
If it comes to Zach LaVine or it comes to DeMar DeRozan, I disagree. I
Really?
think at those points, yeah, you want to get as much back as possible because that's about building stuff. But the fact is that that's just not going to work. Like this group of players, like maybe we'll be proven wrong. Maybe that adding Dennis Schroeder and Drew Eubanks is going to change everything, and this is now a 50-win team.
Hey, I'm gonna say that we're
with
not
your
wrong.
chest.
I'm gonna say it with my whole chest. They're not.
Yeah. So
feel
I'm
good
gonna
about
get
that.
back to the point though. The point is you made an egregious error. An egregious error when you traded De'Aaron Fox and took back the contract of
Zach
LaVine.
I would agree.
Right. But here's how because we like to use like odd comparisons here, right?
Sure.
We always talk about like franchise building blocks. And I still believe that Domantas Sabonis is a franchise building block for almost any team he goes to. He leads the league in rebounding. He averaged almost 20 points a game. He between 6 and 8 assists a game. He's still a top 20 player in the NBA, in my opinion. I think he's still a tremendous player. But he was the other guy standing next to De'Aaron Fox holding up like the franchise. Those were your cornerstones of the franchise, right? When you took out one of those cornerstones, I now look at this as, like if you were to trade Domantas Sabonis today, and I don't know what you're going to get back, but if you were to trade him, if you can find a place for him, because like, look, he makes a lot of money. It's not every team can build their team around him. Not every team is going to build their team around him after the draft and the first couple of days of free agency.
Right.
But if you were to take out that leg of this table, I'm going to almost guarantee you this. This is not a table with 4 legs. It's a table with 2 legs. It's screwed into the wall on the back edge.
Right.
But it's not really screwed in. So as soon as you take away one of those front legs, the whole thing will just fall. And that is
a classic dilemma.
If you want to be a 25-win team, you just trade Domas. That's the easy answer. You trade Domas, and then this becomes worse than just a collection of misfit toys. It becomes like completely scattered.
Sure.
Which is what we saw last year.
Sure.
Like you took out De'Aaron Fox, and this thing just looked like disorganized and a mess. And I don't put it on the coaching staff or anyone else. There's nothing you can do. You take away your best player, a guy that you literally for 7.5 years called the head of the snake. You lopped off the head of the snake, and you didn't replace it with another head of the snake.
Plan.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, you just signed Dennis Schroeder, and like
I have some new thoughts on that. I've done some thinking.
We'll
get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. But like, if you're going to bring in a player who has played is on his 10th team in 13 seasons, and people are like, oh well, he's played for 4 teams in the last 12 months. It's like, okay, all right, the 7th team in 13 seasons. It doesn't change the calculus.
No.
He's not the head of the snake. He's a player, a rotational player for the last 10 teams he's played for. The last 9 teams he's played for. He's a rotational player. He's a good player, but that he's not a franchise cornerstone guy that you build your offense around. He's not that guy. So like, how do you move forward? And like, I think it's a complicated situation.
So I was going through, I was listening back to some of our show yesterday. I was listening to D'Lo and KC yesterday. And then I was following along as Kenny was, going back and forth with people on Twitter today, because I really wanted to try and get my arms around the extent of the discussion. I don't even want to say arguments, because I don't think there's necessarily a right and wrong here. I think it's just everybody is rowing the same direction. Everybody wants the Kings to be good. There's just some disagreements about how to best make them good, right? Everything comes down to this. Whether you think they should tank Whether you're upset that Scott Perry didn't blow everything up this year, whether you're upset that Scott Perry didn't make a move to try and build around this core, whether you're cool with a wasted year. People keep saying gap year. I think that's too nice. I'm calling it a wasted year. If you're cool with just a wasted year in 25, 26, that's fine. No matter what, the end result and the answer to how do the Kings get good again, how do the Kings get back on a postseason track, it's the draft. You have to hit on draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
That is the very bottom line to all of this. Whether you're tanking or whether you're trying to win this year and being cool with picking sometime in the late lottery or shortly after, you have to hit on a draft pick and not hit on a draft pick like, oh, hey, that's a rotation guy. That helps.
Mm-hmm.
That is immensely helpful. Finding Keegan Murray in the draft is immensely helpful. But you need to find Giannis. You need to find Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You need to find a Anthony Edwards. Even if I would take a Trae Young at this point, you need to find that perennial all-star, all-pro, all-NBA caliber player via the draft. That is, whether you think they're tanking or should be or shouldn't be, or if this is a guy, that is what all of this comes down to. The future of the Sacramento Kings doesn't ride on expiring contracts of Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis. It doesn't ride on Dennis Schroeder. It doesn't ride on Malik Monk. It doesn't ride on Keegan Murray. It rides on whether the Kings and Scott Perry can find quality players in the draft and a superstar in the draft.
Yes.
That's what all of this comes down to.
I agree 100%.
All right, show's over.
Should have just drafted Luka.
Well, all right.